end. Thank you. So John, please, can you tell us about the approach that ToughBook takes on connectivity?
Yeah, sure, I can, Dina. Yeah, it's to explain a little bit about before we specifically get into 5G. So our approach around connectivity is we have a horizontal team of engineers based in our development center in Japan. So there are 11 people currently in that team, just focused purely on the development of antennas, wireless subsystems. Of course, we manufacture our own products as well. And that very much comes from our heritage and our experience in mobile phone development at Panasonic. So we've got a long track history of developing mobile phones and other wireless systems, to be honest. So what we're all about is, first and foremost, you can imagine, particularly the G2 is a great example. And it's not evident from the outside just looking at the G2, but that product is packed with antennas. So it's not just, we're talking about more like 5G connectivity today, but of course there's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, RFID, other sort of wireless connectivity, and it's important that all of those wireless subsystems work together in harmony. So I just want to show you a slide, Dina, because I think this will help explain to the audience. If I just quickly share my screen, bear with me. So hopefully you're going to be able to see this. As always, it's never the, so hopefully you can see that, Dina, yeah?
Yeah.
And this approach really is quite unique in the sort of the PC manufacturing world. Normally, as I said, that would be something that if you were a smartphone or a feature phone manufacturer, you would find a similar approach in those sort of industries. One of the most interesting ones is that the picture that you see in the middle of the screen, that is a 10-meter anechoic chamber. That is situated in our Kobe factory in Japan. Actually, it's a separate part of the factory, so it's I've been there a number of times. And it's I don't know if you can quite clearly see the scale of the facility, but as I said, it's a 10-meter squared chamber, purely because that's what lots of the regulations are based on. So you don't have to amplify signals and things like that. You can test the product in its entirety within that area. You can also put vehicles in there, which is another approach. And again, that's unusual for a PC manufacturer. That's roughly a $3 million investment. So a huge amount of money invested in that. But essentially, to the right side of the picture, the whole point of doing that is we understand if you are deploying ToughBook products into the market, more often than not, you are deploying mission critical applications. So you need unsurpassed connectivity. Basically, you need connections that are able to hang on to higher levels of technology connectivity at higher speeds than normal. We know what happens in the world of the mobile operator. You've got to see their claims around we cover 99% of the population. That's fine. We cover 99% of the population in an outdoor scenario. Okay, what about the indoor scenario? So there's lots of the UK that doesn't have that level of population, but we still need to have sort of the connected worker. So yeah, that's our approach. Basically, the best connectivity that you can get in a mobile device.
Lovely. So what are the biggest challenges in achieving great connectivity in a mobile solution?
I will show you another couple of slides in a moment, but you can imagine, particularly wireless connectivity is different from the physical type of connectivity. If you were talking about a LAN cable that can be plugged in and out, that's quite often easy to find out where the issues lies. Wireless connectivity is often subjective. It can't be seen, it can't be touched, it can't be felt. And to be fair, it's one of the most common challenges we see with mobile deployments globally. So, and I'm going to say not challenge with the product, but in having great connectivity in a mobile fleet, that's a challenge. And we have great experience. We've been doing this for it'll be 26 years this year, and not just with the product and with the technology, but also with the mobile operators. So we're able to sort of, work with the operators to find out, where the issues lie and how those issues can be mitigated. I don't know if you can guess for anybody, in the webinar, but I'm from sort of Wales, from South Wales, and it's a great area to test out good wireless connectivity. It's not that densely populated. We've got lots of sort of valleys and hills and mountains that you get varied connectivity. And this is why I think it's easier to show you, potentially, if I show you this slide, Dina. This probably illustrates it a little bit better because this is something that we've done more recently. So you're familiar with that slide. If we move through to that slide, so you can see here where we are in Wales. And essentially what we do is, this is an example where we use the O2 network. We worked with our partners NetMotion because NetMotion have provided us with the tools and analysis or analytics software that you can put on the device to look at signal strength, technology type, etc., etc. And basically what we do is, quite often we test the products. We do it to go on a drive test around challenging terrain around our area and other areas, of course, across Europe. And this is an example of a sort of a competitive device. And you can see essentially it's made up of two parts. You've got the signal quality, so what is the quality of the connection, and also the technology type. And the technology type is, of course you want to be connected to the higher levels of technology as much as you can to ensure you've got the greatest bandwidth available to you. And you can see this is basically an eastern part of the valleys, where you sort of start from the factory, drive through some really challenging terrain, and then back to the factory. It's about a sort of a 30-mile drive test. You can see the red triangles are where the signal quality has dropped completely, so it's lost connectivity. Of course, if you were working in that environment where you didn't have connectivity, you wouldn't be able to do potentially your role. And then the right-hand side is the technology type. And as I said, you want to be connected, if you can, to 4G all of the time. And you can see that's depicted by the different colors. So you can see as it gets near to where it's dropping connectivity, it's dropping down the technology type, so the bandwidth is reducing. Maybe some of your applications don't work because it's, GPRS, for example, might have a data rate that is lower than your mobile system needs. So on the flip side of that, this is exactly the same drive test, because we had, actually it was with 3 products, but we've got the data from 2 because it just makes it easier to do a comparison. So this is with a TOUGHBOOK, and you can see exactly the same drive test, where even in the areas where that it's struggling to get, you getting very weak signal. It's really struggling to stay connected, but stays connected. And you can see that's also reflected in which technology it's connected to. So it's hanging on to 4G and 3G for longer periods of time throughout the drive test than the competitive device. And a good example of this, we're all consumers. I've got a sort of a consumer style smartphone for my work. Quite often when I disappear into a valley, which I've got one probably 2 miles down the road from me, I can't get connectivity on my smartphone, yet I've still got connectivity on my TOUGHBOOK. And that engineered sort of connectivity approach is what we're all about, really. So yeah, that's just some of the challenges that we face. So that's our approach, how to fix that.
Great, thank you. So I get that it can be challenging to achieve great connectivity. Are there any TOUGHBOOK products that already offer a 5G solution?
Yes, there is. Yes. So the great thing is I'm just bear with me a second. I don't know if you can see my screen any longer.
No.
Can you see it? Okay, good. That's good. Yes, we do. So the quite hot off the press, actually. We've just recently launched in February of this year the FZ G2, and I mentioned that earlier on. That's the first TOUGHBOOK, so it's a 10-inch Windows tablet that comes with 5G as an option. It still has 4G as an option, but you've also got the option to have 5G if you need. That's got what we call sub-6 technology. The beauty of that is that's where we see the applications today, and where the network is more mature. The 5G network is more mature, and we see a lot of applications for that. But the benefit is that G2 is also designed to have millimeter wave technology, which is the much higher frequency, much higher bandwidth, lower latency technology. And as the applications become a little bit more clear of where millimeter wave can be used in a mobile product, then we could integrate that. And that's just the start, really, Dina. So we've got the G2 now. A little bit of a sneak preview. We've got another brand new product coming that we're going to launch in May that will follow the same 5G footprint, and from here on in, all of the products will become 5G enabled at some point. So yeah, exciting.
Lovely. So the trend in the mobile market is towards eSIM. Does the G2 have eSIM capability?
Yes, it does. Yes. So if you the G2, along with most of our newer products, not all, but most of our newer products that offer 4G and 5G with the G2 offers eSIM connectivity, and that just brings additional benefits. We're getting a lot of. It's a trend that we've seen, particularly in the the smartwatch market and the smartphone market, but it just eases from a staging perspective, from a deployment perspective, if you've got that eSIM enabled product, being able to connect to the networks that you want. And sometimes what happens, particularly if we're doing national rollouts with our devices with our clients, there might be some areas of network connectivity with some operators that are not good as others, and it gives you our customers the ability or the flexibility to change the network operator much easier than having to deal with a physical SIM. So it's essentially, it's like the out-of-box experience or the in-field experience where the QR code can change you and provision you on a different network. So yeah, that's something that we're seeing, and certainly that trend will continue, we think. Yeah.
Lovely. So what benefits will we see with 5G in ToughBook specifically?
There's, the obvious one everybody talks about, and the progression from 2 through to sort of 5G. It's always been about performance. There's very low latency in the 5G network, almost giving you sort of fiber and broadband levels of latency that you're experiencing at home, and that we're sort of connected through to today. So of course the very high bandwidth, so gigabit speeds. I think one of the things that is possibly maybe overlooked a little bit, because we all focus on the performance, is the ability for the 5G network to handle network congestion better. So it's got built into it is basically the ability to handle 1 million connections per square kilometre, and that's 10 times more than 4G capability. And Dina, probably people on the webinar have experienced, if you're in a sports stadium. I experienced it, holiday hotspots, for example, New Year's Eve celebrations, where there's lots of people in a sort of a, maybe not so much during the COVID pandemic, but certainly lots of people trying to get connectivity, sending somebody a New Year's Eve message, or my football team has just scored. That is all, or has been, an issue for 4G and the other networks. So 5G, with this 10 times more sort of connectivity within 1 square kilometre, should sort of really improve that. And holiday hotspots might not be something you think about with ToughBook, but if you're in the the south of England, down maybe in the Cornwall area in the summer, still there's utilities work needs to happen, emergency services still need to go about their work. So if you're dependent on the network, you still need to have great connectivity.
Mm.
And I think the other big thing is the end goal for all of us is we all want connectivity everywhere and anywhere. And I think that ubiquitous 5G will also then give us additional benefits. So we're not there yet, but when we get to a stage in the future where wherever you are, indoors, outdoors, wherever you are in the country, whichever your setting is, that you will just be able to connect. So hopefully that will bring additional benefits when we get to that level as well.
Lovely. So what sectors do we see 5G being adopted first?
Well, that's a good question, Dina. Yeah, there's I think that really depends. We're certainly seeing a lot of activity, in the wider enterprise corporate space. I think there's a lot of focus in those areas around reducing you know, traditional IT setups move into a more cloud-based computing, and 5G will give you that, or potentially ubiquitous 5G will give you that ability to maybe do more in the cloud, particularly around deployment, around having you know, zero touch approach to deploying a product into the user or a field user's a field engineer's hand in the field. Areas that are a little bit more not vertical but across sector are large campuses, ports, large manufacturing sites, where they're talking around about sort of private 5G. You know, rather than having maybe the, you know, a massive expanse of smaller Wi-Fi installations, they want to move to a, you know, one or two private 5G umbrellas that gives you the same or even more connectivity than you've got with Wi-Fi. So again, obviously, maybe there's a cost reduction element. Digital twins is the big thing, you know, in the across sectors. People are looking at complex plant equipment, you know, white goods, etc. The ability to have a digital twin, so maybe 5G will open up that application. VR and AR training, particularly in the public space, you know, it's expensive to set up scenarios for training, and maybe that's an opportunity, or we'd certainly see a lot of opportunity in the AR space, that it will give you a level of training before maybe embarking on the more expensive training. And the other one, which was quite interesting, we've had recently, is in the news space. You know, news agencies like Reuters, for example, the ability to capture that news information in video and audio in high definition and be able to transmit that back to you know, the news channels where they sell that news to as quickly as possible. So yeah, I think it's not maybe one sector at first. We see it very much sort of across sectors, but really exciting times.
Great. So just building upon what 5G would do for ToughBook, what new applications could 5G enable in ToughBook products?
Yeah, that's also exciting, and I touched on a few of them during, you know, the last question. But there's also, you know, as a society, we're facing, you know, certainly even during the pandemic, you know, changing work habits. Workforces are growing older. We're losing maybe some of the wealth and experience of experience that we've seen our workforces develop over the years. Some maybe that if they are in a mobile field type of role are not so keen to sort of do all of the traveling that they perhaps used to do. So that, in terms of remote expert type of working, is something that you know, if you can connect to a field engineer that maybe doesn't have the required skill set to do a particular job, but if you can connect that to a back-end expert function and enable them to sort of perform that repair or installation or piece of maintenance, there's lots of value. I think that's an area, that along with tele-collaboration. I talked about the more cloud-based computing. You know, I think maybe the reluctance of 5, 10, 15 years ago, where people maybe didn't perhaps trust the cloud so much, is certainly come to the fore again, just from a cost perspective. Again, that ubiquitous 5G piece is going to be important there. And the other, I touched on it in the last answer, but the ability to deploy products, you know, ToughBook or other product in the autopilot world, the Android zero touch world, but provision that over 5G. That's something that we've seen. Of course, it depends on your data allowance, but it's something that we've seen quite a lot of appetite for, especially with the large workforces where they don't have to, you know, if you're trying to deploy a few thousand devices, you don't have to get them from an OEM like Panasonic, then send them to an IT department to install something on, and then out to the field. You just want to deploy them to the field. Of course, that can be done by Wi-Fi, but it depends on your, you know, your security policies, whether you would want to do that. So 5G is being seen quite exciting in that space.
Yes, lovely. Are there any other solutions that can further enhance connectivity?
Yeah, there are actually, and we work with a number of partners in this space. I would urge, if you're not familiar with NetMotion, then I would urge you to have a look at NetMotion online. We've worked with NetMotion for a very large number of years. They provide sort of a trusted VPN, but also a session persistence connectivity solution. And that is able to manage if you like, a single IP, even if it was changing from a 5G or 4G to a Wi-Fi network to some other network, even a LAN cable. And it basically takes that and it reestablishes the VPN connection. It takes all of the connectivity pain away. So if that is a problem in your organization, I would urge you to have a look at NetMotion. There are some other physical things that you can do, particularly around, looking at in-vehicle hubs. So we've got our partner Cradlepoint, for example, that does in-vehicle multi-bearer SIM connectivity. That then, if you like, puts a smaller Wi-Fi sort of connectivity umbrella over a vehicle. So we're seeing that that's quite popular in the public space. So on a fire engine, for example. The other one is one we've recently done with our partner Sierra Wireless. We've recently done a deployment in the UK, which is with a multi-bearer SIM. So the actual SIM is able to connect to all 4 major networks in the UK. So Vodafone, O2, Everything Everywhere, EE, and 3. And again, that's important. That was for a national rollout. So as you can imagine, in the UK, when the no mobile network operator talks about population coverage, they don't necessarily talk about geographical coverage. So there's areas in the UK, probably not far from where I live, that you won't get any connectivity at all because generally nobody lives there. But that's another solution that we're seeing a lot of a lot of uptake on. And the last one is also understanding really what is going on with the product. So our partner B2M provides an analytics suite that is able for you to look at the connectivity, look at when they're connected, the signal strength, and basically understand it. So it might drive some other sort of activity in your organization to improve that connectivity. So yeah, there's lots that can be done, but I think the basis really is all of those things are great, but you need to base that on a great connectivity platform like TOUGHBOOK.
Lovely. So, lastly, once the product is deployed into the field, do we see issues with connectivity and how do we support these?
Yeah, and I wouldn't like to sit here, Dina, and say we don't see issues. We in short, we do. As I said earlier on, really, we're not in that ubiquitous connected world yet. Hopefully one day we will be there. But, as I said, you can't touch and feel the wireless connectivity. So there's always a challenge, always things are happening, and it's a complex set of things that you need to get working. So the application, security, VPNs, for example, other, the operating system, the connect. It's a reason why people say, mobility is complex. So yes, we do, and I think that's the key point for us, really. It's why we have a team of regional engineers in Europe. Those guys are in market. So when issues happen, they're experienced working with mobile network operators. Some of these issues can become very complicated. It's difficult to isolate the problem, but I see that as one of our key differentiators, having engineers that stand shoulder to shoulder with our customers and clients to even when it's quite often not our not an issue on a hardware side, but it's affecting the performance of the solution in the field. So that for me is critical, providing that support to guys and using our experience in that space. So yeah, I'm proud of that particularly. Yeah.
Lovely. So I can't really see that we have any questions in the chat. Um,
I
so
can't either. No, looks like it's clear at the moment, which either we've
great.
answered everything, Dina, or maybe, well, I guess if anybody does have anything, they can fire emails to us later